Welcome and thank you for joining the Lane Regional Air Protection Agency's presentation on the background and decision-making process for the Eugene e-commerce warehouse parking lot projects and their indirect source construction permit. I'm Matt Sorensen, the Public Affairs Manager, and thank you for making time to learn more. The Lane Regional Air Protection Agency, or LRAPA, is your local air quality agency, and we are asked to enforce the Federal Clean Air Act and Oregon State air regulations in Lane County. And it is our job to protect Lane County's public health and the environment through air quality regulation. So, what is an ISCP and why would an air agency regulate parking lot construction? Well, an ISCP stands for Indirect Source Construction Permit. It's part of LRAPA's Title 20 that reviews the air impacts of constructing parking lots, roads, and airports. You could read all of Title 20 or any LRAPA title at our website, lrapa-or.gov. Now, this permit allows LRAPA to review proposed construction projects that attract gas or diesel powered vehicles. The goal is to ensure that those emissions wouldn't cause our region to exceed federal air quality standards. The permit is also designed to target two primary pollutants, carbon monoxide and lead. Fortunately, we phased out leaded gasoline in 1996, which eliminates the lead concerns. And since this regulation was crafted in 1974, both gas and diesel vehicles are now required to have catalytic converters and fuel injection systems, which has significantly reduced carbon monoxide and other harmful emissions. So, with that in mind, what would trigger an ISCP for a parking lot in Lane County? The first threshold is for parking projects over 250 spaces and within 5 miles of the Eugene Springfield area. The next threshold would apply elsewhere in Lane County, and then it's for permits are required for lots over 500 spaces. Now, outside Lane County is DEQ's authority, and their threshold for a permit begins at 800 or more spaces. It's important when thinking about what goes into permitting is that an agency like LRAPA evaluates the permit application by following existing local, state, and federal air quality regs, and ensuring that the regulatory compliance can happen. So a project's ability to comply with the permit guidelines and air regulations determines if LRAPA is legally obligated to approve or deny the permit. Now, the initial e-commerce permit application listed the 368 employee parking spaces, but it did not include the additional fleet or delivery vehicle parking spaces. The application estimated 2,592 daily vehicle trips at full capacity, with operations running 20 hours a day, and noted peak activity would be scheduled to minimize traffic impacts. Now, during the initial public notice, LRAPA mistakenly included emissions from an unrelated landscaping facility for materials they commonly use, like bark and mulch. Those items do emit formaldehyde, volatile organic compounds, and particulate matter. It is important to note that these emissions do not apply to this particular project. Their inclusion was a total mistake. It was corrected as soon as it was discovered, and we do apologize for the mishap and any confusion it may have caused. Now, our agency accepted formal public comments on the e-commerce parking lot permit and received over 300 comments between July 2nd to July 22nd. We were fortunate to have 6 local news outlets cover the permit, and they promoted the public commenting opportunity. Here at LRAPA, we truly value public engagement, and we appreciate anyone and everyone that took time to submit a formal public comment. They help ensure that we haven't overlooked something or regulatory aspects that help us craft more locally responsive permit requirements. So now I'd like to unpack what was shared in those 300 plus comments. Some of the comments we received focused on issues outside of our agency's authority, or it didn't address the air quality regulations we would use to guide the permit decision for this particular permit. These comments then are classified as non-substantive. Most of the non-substantive comments we received fell into 4 themes: general comments opposing or supporting the project. There was concerns about wetland impacts. There were questions and concerns about the status of the City of Eugene's permitting process, and there was questions and concerns about the parent company operating the site. While we recognize these concerns have merit, they do fall outside of our agency's regulatory authority and therefore the scope of the regulations for this permit. We also received comments that were directly addressing topics that are under LRAPA's scope of authority and specifically spoke to air quality regulations for our permit consideration. And these types of comments are classified as substantive comments. Now, most of the substantive comments we received fell into three themes. There were requests to expand the assessment and make sure we included the fleet delivery parking along with the employee parking. There was requests to make sure that we were maximizing or requiring the use of electric vehicles for the fleet. And finally, there was just general concern about site emissions and specifically the project potentially causing carbon monoxide levels to exceed federal standards. After reviewing public comment, our agency agreed with the public commenters that the permit scope should encompass both the 368 employee parking spaces as well as the 989 fleet parking spaces. And by expanding the permit scope, this resulted in the project exceeding 1,000 gas and diesel powered vehicle spaces. And as such, our agency required the source to either conduct carbon monoxide modeling that would show the airshed impacts from their operation or reduce the number of gas powered vehicles by electrifying segments of the delivery fleet. And in this instance, we're happy to say the source committed to electrifying part of their fleet. The source agreed that they would have 25% of their fleet electric in year one and then increase that total incrementally until 70% of the fleet was electric by year 10, which out of 1,000 is 700 EVs. They were also going to make sure that they were following the City of Eugene's requirement that 10% of employee parking be exclusively for electric vehicles. With all of these requirements, we are very confident that the carbon monoxide levels will remain well below federal standards. And after working with the source to finalize the permit requirements shaped by your public input, our agency completed our review of the e-commerce parking lot permit. And I want to emphasize your formal public comments strengthened the final permit requirements, and we are so thankful for your time and thank you for your input. With the additional EV fleet requirements that were added to the permit, LRAPA issued an approved indirect source construction permit for the e-commerce parking lot project on Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. As part of that permit, over the next 10 years, our agency will periodically verify the fleet's composition and size. And of course, all permit documents, public comment responses, and related materials are available at lrapa-or.gov. This concludes our presentation. And I want to thank you again for engaging and participating in this process. We are grateful to serve as your local air agency. If you have a moment, scan the QR code or visit our website and you can sign up for future LRAPA public notices and news. Thank you.